This morning, I am here to speak about how I lost my baby boy in a hospital in Aberdeen, United Kingdom. So I came to the United Kingdom in 2018 to pursue a master's degree. I completed my master's degree in 2019 and had a baby boy. So before I even start, I would like to say it is exactly 1 year and 6 months since my son passed away. And it's been 1 year and 5 months since we buried him. So guys, I'm going to share what happened from the pregnancy to the circumstances surrounding his death, his birth, after he died, my life at the moment, the lessons learned from my son's death. Thank you very much for joining me today. And before we start, I would like to observe a minute's silence for the soul of my dear son Arthur and the soul of all the faithful departed. Thank you so much for joining this live. I'm just trying to test run to see if my mics are working well, and I would start. So guys, my name is Blessing Ame, and I am a Nigerian. I came into the United Kingdom in 20. So let me fast forward this story till to the day or 1 day before my son died. So I had Arthur when he was 6 months old. He was very little. He was extremely premature. The day my son died, I went to the hospital, and he was looking really weird, and he was looking sick. And he was just looking at me. He was 68 days old. And me and his dad were trying to feed him. And his dad carried him and thought Arthur's weight was too light. And I was like, yes, I think so. So after Arthur's dad finished feeding my son, his dad left for work, and I was left with Arthur in the hospital at the neonatal ward. So I held my baby, and I felt Arthur was very, very light, like he was light. And I touched his back. I placed my hand on his back. I placed my son's chest, and it felt like there was a lot of water in his chest and inside his back. Immediately, I was there asking the nurse on duty, what is wrong with my son? What is wrong with Arthur? And one of the nurses said, there's nothing wrong with your son. In fact, your son was seen by the doctors today. So, as I was standing there, Arthur was still vomiting, and he was vomiting a lot, and it was light. And I started to shout, you need to call the consultant, or need to call the doctor. Can you imagine that in a neonatal ward of about 8 children that were very ill? I asked, what is my country? I am from Nigeria. Thank you for joining me. And I'm speaking about how I lost my son at a UK hospital in Aberdeen. So thank you for joining my live. I'm just here to share my story. I urge anybody out there going through this kind of thing. And I hope this fate never befalls my enemy. If you have not lost a child, you would not understand. I used to tell people, sorry about your loss, but I understand what pain was until I lost my own son. So guys, I went to the hospital exactly 1 year, 6 months ago that my son died. I had my son on the 18th of February, and he began to grow so fast. And in 2 weeks, they took him from the critical ward and they put him into another nursing ward. As we're in that nursing ward, there were so many practices that I did not like. But because I was very ill, I had hyperemesis, I was down, I was not out soon, I was still trying to recover. I had just lost my visa. Then my university had withdrawn their sponsorship. Guys, my family members are back in Nigeria. Remember, my son was born when he was 6 months old. So there was no way for my mom or my sisters to come here to be with me. So all I had was my husband, Arthur's. So I was ill. No, I had hyperemesis, not diarrhea. I had hyperemesis. I was sick all through the pregnancy. So I was vomiting from the day one up to the day I gave birth. I was 110 kg, and during the pregnancy, I dropped to 50 kg. I lost half of my body weight. Now let's move on to what happened to my son. So I was holding Arthur and feeding him, and I noticed that he was very, and I started to shout at the nurse, you need to get the doctor, you need to get the consultant. Immediately, I texted Arthur's dad, and I told him something is wrong with our son. I'm carrying him, I'm holding him, and he's very light. He's crying and he's not. Did you know that I waited for the doctors for at least 2 hours? There was no consultant coming to see my son. As I held my son's hand, as I was standing by his bed, he was just looking at me. Of course, he was just 68 days old. So I held Arthur's hand, and he was looking at me, and his eyes spoke to me. His eyes was saying to me, Mom, I'm leaving. My son talked, but I knew he was leaving. Now, guys, let me tell you the worst part of all this for me. Why I am saying it on YouTube this morning. I have still not gone back to the hospital for a review for my son's death because I'm a bit angry about some things that happen. I know we shouldn't live a life of regrets, but I am filled with regrets because there are some things that I noticed I should have not kept quiet. 2 weeks before my son died, I told the hospital, I was on one of their morning rounds, I told them that I think my baby's stomach is sore. I think my baby is ill. And they said, no, he's not ill. It could be hernia of the cervix or of the navel because it's preemie. Now, nobody paid attention to this. Also, before Arthur was on 1 week to that time, we already agreed with the doctors not to give him any immunization at that point. So we were not going to immunize Arthur immediately. And the doctors agreed. But after 1 week, they came to immunize my son. When they immunized him, he was still ill. Now, I am not blaming anybody for Arthur's son. This story I'm telling all of you today, there are lessons to be learned from this story. The number one thing I want to tell you is, in life, if you have an urge, or if your instinct is something, or if the Holy Spirit tells you something, don't keep quiet. Thank you, Vish Kumar. I'm from Nigeria. Thank you for joining me. And Fuel, I was ill. I don't have diarrhea. I had hyperemesis. And Leon said he got mentally ill from smoking ganja. Sorry, Leon, I'm speaking about my 2-month-old son that died. He couldn't have smoked ganja. May God forgive you. And may you not lose your own son. So painful it is. Now I'm going back to Arthur's story. And I'll stop responding to the comment on my wall because it's distracting. And I know the devil is at work this morning. Because the devil does not want me to say what I'm about to say. So if you are a demon or a devil on my timeline, I'm going to give my testimony this morning. So it's just going to annoy you. My son passed on. Allow me to speak my truth. So if you are typing rubbish on my wall, I'm going to jam your energy with my own energy. And trust me, I'm going to curse you this morning. Because the pain now, it's not the pain for anyone to come here and write shit on my wall. Anyways, my son died. And why I'm so mad or why I'm so sad is I kept asking the doctor and the doctor never came. They stayed for like 2 hours. Then the consultants came at last. After hours of meeting, they told me that they're going to have a surgery on my son. They're going to open up my son's tummy to see what is wrong with him. They're going to open his tummy. If they need to fix him, they're going to fix him. I didn't even have a chance to say goodbye to my son. That was the last time I saw my baby alive. This is all I have left of my baby. This is the remains of Arthur. Before more people join us, like these are the few things I have of my son. This was the last clothes my baby wore before he died. To show you how little he was. You can see the stains and all. That's baby's clothes. That was his pacifier in the hospital. And of course, the clothes he wore before his funeral. So guys, they came and told me that they're going to operate on my son. They took him in for operation and he never made it out. In fact, before he went in for the operation, they placed him under morphine. So they gave him morphine and they put him to sleep and they operated. Now, my son never came back from that operation. Again, this morning, I'm not here to blame the hospital. I'm just here to tell you that if you ever have a nudge, or if the Holy Spirit is saying something, or if there's a negative prophecy about you, a prophecy has two sides. For every time the devil tells you your person is going to die, or you are going to die, you need to reject it. 3 days or 4 days before my son died, standing and I had a premonition, and I was crying, and I was telling his dad, I said, look, our son, they said he's dead. I had this premonition, but I didn't do anything about it. Also in the hospital, when I was telling the doctors that my son's tummy was hurting, nobody did anything about it. In fact, they didn't take it seriously until this thing killed my son. Now, the hospital here in Aberdeen, they have invited me to come for a review. I can't even go for the review because of the pain. This is exactly 1 year, 6 months since my son passed. And this is the first time that I'm able to say Arthur's story without breaking a tear. And I hope that God's given me the strength to say this story because of how I truly feel. I will say the things that happened during, but let me fast forward. So Arthur was born extremely premature. And the doctor said he died because of failure to thrive. And also said he had an infection. They said his intestines were infected. Now, number one, my son was in the critical unit of the neonatal ward. So if a baby you check every day, your doctors come around every day, they check on my baby, and they didn't even notice that anything was wrong with my baby's tummy until my poor son died. What is making me sad and angry is Arthur was a baby, so he couldn't speak for him. He couldn't even say he was in pain. I only saw pain in my son's eye the morning he died. When I held his hand, he was just looking at me. My son was looking at me in the eye, almost like saying, Mom, I'm leaving. What I would say is, Arthur, if God has called you home, I cannot stop him. God is unquestionable. Only God knows why he gave you to me and he's taking you back from me. God, they said, does not, they said God gives you gifts and he doesn't add sorrows to it. This is the first time I'm questioning my Christian faith. I have asked God, why did you give me a son and take him away from me? Why did you put me in a lot of... I am so sad because Arthur did not have a chance. I did not have the chance to breastfeed my own son. Arthur suckled. I only breastfed him maybe 2 times or 3 times before he died. And I thank the life of a nurse, Nurse Andrea. She was so nice. And few days before my died, when his grandparents came, the nurse asked us to take pictures together, family pictures, almost like she knew. Few days before Arthur died, asked me to suckle him, almost like she knew. This was the closest contact I had with my son, suckling him for just 1 hour in the neonatal ward. Now they went in for this surgery, and in time, surgery was over. And I thought this surgery finished too quickly. Maybe nothing was wrong with son. And when they came out of the surgery, they told me and his father to accept it, to just say our goodbye. They are going to take support off my son. So they gave me Arthur to hold. So I was in a room with my dead son for 4 hours or 5 hours. I held him to my chest. I held him so close. And I was like, Arthur, me, come back to me. Why are you doing this? What did God give you to me, then take you away from me? What kind of pain is that? See, I will never forget this day. This is the last shawl my son used in the hospital. And that's all that I have for my son's memory. His shovel, his towels, small things like that. Now, what this morning, please, if you're an immigrant, whether you're in the UK, or you're in the US, or you're in Canada, and you have a neonatal and you have a baby in the neonatal, never keep quiet. If you think something is wrong with your baby, demand for the doctors to see your baby. If you tell them something is wrong and they shut down, you need to shut them down. I know that what was meant would be. Maybe if Arthur was meant to die, maybe God called Arthur. But I wish I did more for my son. Now that my son has passed, I feel like a failed mother. You know why? I feel like a failed mother because I told the doctors, this boy is ill. His tummy hurts. They told me no, maybe it's just hernia. I should have stuck with my mother's instinct. A mother's instinct can never be wrong. So women, men out there, if you have babies, if you ever find yourself in neonatal, whether in your country, whether far away from home, wherever you are, don't ever keep quiet. If you think your baby is not fine, demand. And Mr. Biggs, thank you so much. I felt like a failed mother because I had hyperemesis and I started looking after myself. But maybe I should have looked out for Arthur a bit more. And like a joke, this thing happened so fast. From the moment they told me to just accept, they're going to have, is it lobotomy? Not lobotomy, but something. They're going to open him up. And my son never came back. The last time I saw my son was when I came to the hospital that morning and I was looking into his eyes. So guys, this is my story. I'm going to do a proper video, but I've been holding on to this pain of Arthur's death for so long, and I thought I put this out today. Guys, I'm not looking for pity. I'm just saying what's in my mind, and I'm telling you about the guilt that I face. Imagine having hyperemesis. Imagine going through pregnancy and childbirth and everything, and you don't have your baby. Imagine suffering. I vomited for all the pregnancy. I was 6 months before my baby was born. I was vomiting all through. But now, the scars are still on me. But my son is gone. I know he's going to be with the Creator. But this hurts so bad. So please, whether it is your baby, whether it is yourself, if anything happens, if you find yourself in a hospital, don't be timid. Speak up, speak your truth. If not, you'll be filled with regret like me. I'm filled with so much regret. I'm filled with so much pain. I wish I could do more for my son. I wish I could stand my ground. I wish when I was telling them that his tummy hurt, I wish I let all hell loose. I wish I screamed to the point they answered me. Nobody. They didn't even listen. I've not gone back for their review because I am in pain. Guys, let's fast forward. My son is dead and gone. Let me tell you what this now. After my son passed on, I had lost my visa. I had to apply for another visa. Anyways, that's not why we're here. I got my visa by the grace of God. But did you know that I can't even celebrate my visa because I feel sad and guilty that all the suffering my son suffered in the neonatal, he's not here with me today. Now I have a visa. Now I'm accomplishing things, but I don't have my son. I feel empty. I feel like a failed mom. I feel like a failed Christian. When I heard it in my head that your son was dying, I should have rejected it in Jesus' name. I should have casted and binded. I should have stood my ground. I should have even disturbed the doctors, but I didn't. And my son passed on. Guys, this life is totally unscripted. Hence why it seems a bit weird and scattered. I'm trying to hold it in. I'm trying so hard not to cry. But please, if you're out mourning and you've lost a son, or you've lost a partner, or your husband or your wife, reach out to somebody. You can't do it alone. The pain is too much. I tried to do it on my own, and the pain almost killed me. If you lost someone, reach out for help. If you don't have a relationship with God, if you had before, reach out to Him. Call for help. I'm going to go back to review. I'm going to contact the hospital to go for the review of Arthur's death. And I'm going to make a comprehensive video on how it went. I just want to put it out here this morning that while I am not blaming the hospital, there were so many careless practices. There were so many things that I saw that didn't sit right with me. But because I was an immigrant, I kept quiet. Because I was timid, because I was too nice, I kept quiet until my son died, until the day he took his final breath. Guys, Arthur was very small, he didn't thrive, but I still feel like I failed. So please, if you don't want to live with guilt and pain after the demise of anybody, I don't even wish demise on anybody. Guys, say your truth. Don't be timid. If you're in the hospital, say your mind. Say what's on your mind. If you're in a police station, say your mind. Don't keep quiet. Life is too tough. This world will swallow you. Hold on to your God. Hold on to your faith. If you don't believe in God, whatever you believe in, hold on to it. Because, man, after losing my son, I know that anything is possible. I never thought I'll ever lose my son. I never thought this kind of thing could happen to me. Imagine having your first baby and losing them. It's like getting your first ever real, maybe toy or friend or companion, then you lose them. I lost my son. Arthur, wherever you are this morning, rest in peace. Mommy miss you, and I pray for you every day. Keep watching down on me. And to every mother out there that have lost their child, may God give you the grace to bear. The pain is deep. I'm going to go off now because I have to come back. If you've lost somebody, may God give you the strength. If you have not reached out for help, out for help. Because this can drive you mental. It can drive you crazy. Thank you. I try to console myself that my son is resting, right? But pain. Thank you everyone for joining this live today.